Hello and welcome back to the Meeting Gold podcast. Your host here, Samuel Miele. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a special guest on today, Matt. Matt, what's your last name again?
Goch.
Goch.
Yeah.
He is born in Niagara, right? Yeah. Grew up here in Niagara, but kind of focuses on real estate in areas past Niagara, Hamilton, like GTA as well, kind of.
Yeah, not quite to the GTA, but like I was telling you before, so I mean, born and raised in Niagara, so that's that's where most of my business is. But our team is based kind of in the Grimsby Stony Creek area, which Grimsby obviously still being part of Niagara, but by nature of that, we do a fair amount of business. Obviously, Grimsby, Stony Creek, and
Gotcha.
Hamilton
I hear you.
But,
and how long have you been in real estate for?
Just this right now will be my first full calendar year.
First full calendar year, eh? Wow, that's pretty cool. So over the year, like first you told me you went to Brock, you kind of did the whole school thing. Mm-hmm. What was your opinion on coming out of school? Did you know what you wanted to do?
No. So what happened? I mean, so I went to university and college, and I mean, I tell a lot of people this, that had I had the choice, and if college was kind of more highly regarded, I think I would have just went there. Honestly, I think I took a lot more out of college. I think, if I knew I wanted to go into real estate from day one, I could have kind of went right into it, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't. So I did the university, did the college, still wasn't sure, but that's, what led me into the finance industry and ultimately banking industry, which is where I worked for Meridian Credit Union.
Now, let me jump in there. Yeah. You said that you probably, if you had known you wanted to be a real estate agent, you probably wouldn't have gone to school. Is that right? Yeah,
like potentially. Like there's certainly things and aspects of, there's a lot of things I took away from school, not even maybe so much the information, the learning, but just, time management and, lots of presentations and teamwork. And so there's definitely value in school. Don't get me wrong there. But I think there are certain jobs and fields out there where the schooling aspect is a little bit more important.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of real estate agents, right? And one of the biggest things that I find is they always say it's networking. It's building connections. That is literally the job of a real estate agent. Marketing, everything else, that's all set aside. Building relationships with people is a top priority, because if you don't have relationships, you don't have clients.
Absolutely. Right?
It's same goes for, building a friend group. You want to hang out with people? Great. Build relationships, right? Yep. There's a technique to that kind of stuff. One of the biggest things I found is I don't know if school necessarily teaches that aspect of things. So I think the biggest teacher for, building relationships, networking, that kind of thing is finding a mentor. Mm-hmm. And then, just going out and doing it, cold calling, sitting down, having coffee with, people that you look up to, starting a podcast where you ask people questions so you can learn more, that kind of thing, right? It's school, I find, teaches a lot of the book stuff, right? What was your, coming out of school? Did you find that kind of in real estate, what were some areas in school that actually did help you get into real estate?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I mean, definitely the time management, and I mean that's a whole other topic about time management,
right.
and kind of, I think it's more about how you prioritize certain aspects of your life and make sure that they're into your schedule, not because you actually can't manage time, right? But I think the teamwork aspect of it, working in groups and doing presentations. And I know at college, I was, a lot of the professors or teachers there were still working in that field, right? So you were getting real life examples, you were getting relevant information because they're still working there, right? So there was definitely those aspects that helped me kind of when I got into the banking world, and then obviously into real estate after. But like you said, it's all about relationships. And I mean, in my mind as a realtor, your number one job is lead generation, right? And how you do that, people often think it has to be the old door-to-door salesman type of thing, cold calling, that kind of stuff. But it doesn't. Like you said, going out with somebody for a coffee, joining a sports team, having a community event. Like there's so many other ways nowadays. I mean, it's tougher with COVID, obviously, but there's many other avenues of building relationships and networking with people besides your typical what people think of lead generation as, right?
And we were talking about this. One of the biggest things as an entrepreneur is, and I was actually having coffee with a good friend the other day, and we were also discussing this, is entrepreneurship isn't about the idea that you have, it's about the people that believe in you. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's like, you know what, the idea is really important, but people aren't going to buy into that idea if they don't trust you, if they don't know you, right? I think that's a big thing when it comes down to starting a business or, starting a new venture. Like, for example, I've worked hard to build a podcast, right? You've worked hard to, network with people outside of just your inner circle to build these relationships that, if you went back to finance, you would actually have a potential client base that you could reach out to, right? I think it's very crucial. So I want to ask you, what are some things that you've done to kind of build that inner circle bigger, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, my transition, I wouldn't say, because, real estate is not easy. It's a simple, what you have to do is not rocket science, but it's not easy. And I think where people fall off is they don't want to put the work in.
Right.
And so for me, I mean, I would say arguably I had a pretty easy transition in. Like, I would say I was in kind of the real estate industry from a different perspective. I was more on the back end with the financing of properties for about 5 or 6 years there, right? So my transition in kind of lent itself fairly nicely. I did hit the ground running. I did a bunch of deals early on, but that network from Meridian really helped me. And a lot of what I'm doing is the same, right? Like how I build relationships, how I network with people, is the same. It's just when you get into real estate, there's some different logistics and, understanding the contracts and kind of how you go about it, but how you get clients and how you run your day-to-day business is very, very similar.
Now, I'm really curious, and I think I want to start asking more people this, but for you, Matt, what is your number one way of, I guess, I don't want to say getting clients, but building relationships? Like what is the thing that provides you the most opportunity to meet new people right now in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because of COVID, obviously, and I hate to use, it's been 2 years now, so I hate to use COVID as an excuse, but obviously not as much of the community stuff. So I rely heavily on my sphere and on my network that I've already built. Obviously, as part of being on a team, opportunities present themselves that way. But just getting back to people, like the amount of business I've done just from following up with people, and it's all in the follow-up, right? I mean, you make that first cold call. Most people aren't sitting there by the phone saying, oh, thank you so much for calling me. I've been waiting for someone to call to sell my house. Yeah. Right? But it's when the timing is right for them, you're top of mind. And it's all about having that mind share, that mind space. So
note taken for everybody listening and watching, follow-up. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that's obviously one of the biggest aspects is, people might not remember you after your first call or it doesn't matter, right? It's the follow-up that will trigger that memory. Yeah. And then you find out if they're actually interested or not, right? A lot of people can say something on the call the first time and then not follow up. Yeah. I've been guilty of that. I've had some people like sales calls, lead generation, Google AdWords, just give me a call tomorrow and don't answer, right? Right. So you kind of learn your market when you do follow up and to see who responds, who cares to respond, who's actually interested, that kind of thing. Yep. Now, I kind of want to transition gears here. When you completed your first full year, so obviously congrats, that's awesome. Yep. What kind of things are you doing to benefit you in the future of, I guess, building a client base? Mm-hmm.
So again, just back to the follow-ups, obviously we have a database and a system that helps us with, with the follow-ups and putting in notes and those things. So,
CRM system, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So same thing, like, I mean, online leads and stuff come through. And like, people always promise you leads, and getting leads is one thing, but in my mind, it's what do you do with those leads?
Closing them, right?
I mean, I can give somebody 1,000 leads, or a team can give somebody 1,000 leads, but I mean, if they're not quality and if you can't do anything with them, what good is it, right? So for me, it's just, same kind of thing, leveraging my network. A big focus for me is in my farm area, so in like the neighborhood where I live.
Interesting.
Is a big area that I want. I mean, it's a newer subdivision. It's not a huge a number of houses, but it's an area that I really want to focus in on. Right. And just kind of leveraging my existing network and my sphere. And obviously, as you get going in the business, referrals become a huge part of that as well. Once you start getting the clients, then the referrals come in. That really leveraging the existing network I have is ultimately what I'm looking for.
Now, I want to kind of get into, because obviously it seems like you've been doing pretty well for yourself in your first year. Most guys don't even get really 1 or 2 deals in their first year, just because it's such a transition from having to organize your time, work much harder, work for yourself. It sounds like you've had that kind of feel even before you got into real estate at Meridian and just even through school, time management, right? And organization. Now, let me ask you, what is your, I'm really interested to hear what it is. What is your like dream I guess, lead generation tactic? Like if you had $10,000, right, what would you spend that on to generate you more leads? Would it be starting a podcast? Would it be spending on Facebook ads? You know what I'm kind of going at here?
Yeah.
What would that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's pretty easy. It would tie sports into
Interesting.
business. I mean, I'm an avid I've played hockey all my life, so playing hockey, but also too golfing, right? I mean, I'd go out and golf, right? And I mean, I think golf's probably that one sport that ties pretty nicely into business. I mean, I'm not very good, but I'm happy to go out there and and to hack around. But yeah, I think that would be for me my kind of way that I'd want to go about it would be, meet up with some prospects or some clients, whatever it might be, out on the golf course. And
it's really interesting. I think in entrepreneurship, it's a lot of what hits a lot of people, but what some people who are really meant to be entrepreneurs enjoy is that there's no like business side of you and personal side of you. Do you know what I mean? Like there's one side, and that's the side that, first of all, everybody should see. There shouldn't be two sides to you. And second of all, like when you play golf with somebody, it's the honest you, right? You mess up a shot, you're not going to be able to fake it for so long, right?
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's the real you. And I think a lot of people that come into entrepreneurship think that they can have a personal life and a business life.
Yeah.
Combine the two. You can combine the two, and you can have clients, be friends, but there can also be boundaries there where you're not, right? You might not go out with them on a Saturday morning for breakfast or a Friday night, but it's that one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. At least for me, I found, a lot of the people that I do work with, I am kind of friends with them, and I take pride in being able to say that. Like, I actually enjoy being able to say, yeah, we'll go play hockey, or, you know what, I'll come to the office, or I'll drop by a Christmas gift, that kind of thing. So let me ask you, what in the holiday season, a lot of Christmas cards are going out, that kind of thing, a lot of letters are going out. What are some things that you want to in the future, maybe you learned from to do more of this year, or what are some things that you did this year to kind of reconnect with your audience in the holiday season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Christmas cards, are kind of an easy and obvious one. I think client kind of drop buys, right? Dropping, it could be a bottle of wine, whatever it might be. Just, having that face-to-face connection again with clients. I mean, I would love to do more of like a community type of event. Obviously, this year has been a little bit tough, but that'll be something that I look to do next year. I know our team wants to do something bigger too as well, but so I think, even stuff in my neighborhood, I did a pumpkin where I went around and handed out pumpkins.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Over Halloween. So something I'd like to tie something like that into Christmas, for sure next year, and just doing more, getting people together, obviously ways to give back, whether it's, a clothing drive, something like that. I mean, I just did a coloring contest actually, which was a really cool.
I saw that on your story.
So that was, I actually got quite a few entries in, which was great. People were super thankful. Fun little activity for the kids. I actually had one lady who runs a home daycare. So she had about all six of the
no
kids.
way.
So she's like, this is great,
Wow.
Little activity.
A little overwhelming your first, yeah.
So, but yeah, so no, it was, so I'll definitely, I'm probably will even do that for different holidays throughout the year because the reception was very good on that.
I really like one of the biggest things that you said was community events. You seem to, like you've said that a few times now, that seems to be a big thing for you. And I think it's such an underrated thing in the business, in entrepreneurship, or in just networking in general. Something about it beats virtual any day of the week. I mean, it just does, right? And yes, as it is restricted right now, I think we can see more of that in the future. Hopefully, fingers crossed, right? What are some, like, I guess, events? Because I've actually been curious about events and that kind of thing. You do keynote speakers, you sell tickets to like 50, 60 different people, do teams. What are some events that you have kind of wanted to pursue, just haven't yet?
Yeah. So a lot of the community stuff, like when I was, like, Meridian's very community focused, obviously flagship branch here in the Lake.
100%.
This is kind of where the grassroots are for Meridian. So a lot of that was ingrained in me during my time there. And it's translated over now. A big thing that our team actually does, and again, this would have been the first year, but obviously we did it much smaller scale, but they, in Stony Creek in 50 Point Community Park, which is a big neighborhood there, we usually do a really large Canada Day event.
Oh, okay.
Fireworks and band and all that stuff, right?
Wow.
Food. So, I unfortunately haven't been able to experience it yet because of COVID, but something like that will be what we look to do again next year, obviously, if we're allowed. And then I would like to take that on a smaller scale in my neighborhood or in my community where I am, and do something like that as well. So whether it's Canada Day or maybe like a May 2-4 a type of thing, but I would like to do a similar event to that.
Gotcha.
Just getting people together, and I think people will be very receptive to that, given that we've kind of been stuck.
Oh no, 100%
for the last little bit. So.
Yeah. Okay, so Matt, what are some of the, I guess, shoot the lights out goals that you have, whether it's, gross sales in 1 year, I'm sure you have goals as a team, right? What are some of the shoot the lights out sales for you personally that you want to hit in, let's say, the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, only, being newer in the business, so I don't want to say I'm already ready to get out of transactional real estate, because I'm not. And I think no matter what you do, if you, start a team, you become, a sales leader on a team, I think you have to stay relevant. So you have to stay in the transactional side of the business. But for me, for sure, in the next few years, I would love to be leading a group of agents, and I think, for me, still doing transactions, but helping guide, especially newer agents, to get them to a point where they are a high producing agent. And then 2, I think there's there'll be some expansion opportunities where we go into some different markets,
right?
So
like development, that kind of area.
Like our office is going to different areas.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I think obviously, it's no secret I'm wanting to expand our team and do more out in the Niagara area. So that I think will be a huge factor in probably the next 3 to 5 years for us as a team. I set GCI goals. I don't know that I have a GCI goal in 5 years. For me, it's about freedom of time, right?
Right.
I have a family. I have 2 young kids. So getting that, and through investing in real estate and other avenues as well, but to have passive income is a huge factor for me as well.
I like that a lot, and I think that's why you mentioned the team thing. Yeah. You know what? It's a big thing. It's not like you need to make, $10 million a year, that kind of thing, right? It's more you're looking for that freedom of time to be able to spend with your family, but also not live, paycheck to paycheck, right? It's that freedom, and I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs seek for. Yeah. Was that your goal? Was when you wanted to go into real estate, was that the biggest reason, is freedom of time, and you knew that if you just did it right, you would be able to have that time to set aside?
Yeah, and people ask me often. I get people asking all the time about, should I leave my job and go into, whether it's real estate or any sort of career? And I tell everybody, I really enjoyed my time with Meridian. I really enjoyed the role I was in. For me, it was about personal development, personal growth, having that freedom. And I knew in the first few years I'm working more than I was at all different hours.
I love it, right?
Nights, whatever it is. But I know long term, it's going to pay dividends for me in terms of getting some time back and being able to spend that time with my family. And I think for me, ever since we bought our first house in 2015, and then I got to see kind of the other side of the real estate industry for the last 5 or so years, that's what really led me down that path. And I didn't want to have any regrets or kind of shoulda, coulda, woulda type of mentality. So I said to my wife, it's something that I have to explore.
100%.
I obviously left Meridian on very, very good terms, and I know I could go back there at any time, but it's something where I had to at least kind of jump in with both feet and see if it works. And obviously, I don't want to say I had success, but I would say I had a very...
You're doing all right for yourself.
Very good first year.
Yeah,
so, again, super thankful and grateful for that, to be surrounded by great people and be on a very high-producing team. Obviously, having the support of my family as well has been huge.
Now, I want to ask you, because you made a good point there, going to Meridian, it was a learning, personal growth experience. Yeah. I think, because I'm 18, right? I have a lot of friends that are in school right now, first, maybe second year, maybe even third year, that are not really sure exactly what they want to do. They're going for a program that they think they want to do, but they're not 100%, right? And don't get me wrong, I don't think you'll ever be 100% on anything you ever want to do. Like, you probably weren't 100% on becoming a real estate agent. It was probably like maybe 90, 85, 80, maybe even 50. You don't know, right? But you'll never 100%. What I like and what I want to touch on is, you said that it was a big personal growth experience. So, to anybody like going to school right now, don't think that you have to go to school, get a job, and that's your life set. Like your life is not set when you get a job out of school. You can actually get a job, an apprenticeship, an internship for the opportunity to grow and learn, because going to school is one thing, but the real world is, nitty gritty. It's tough as nails, and people don't really care whether you went to school or not. It's how you treat them. Do you respect them? Can you connect with them? Can you be there for them? Right. So I think that's the biggest thing. And did you find that Meridian kind of taught you the people skills, at least to a certain extent, to be able to get you to be more experienced in real estate?
Absolutely. And like I said earlier, I mean, the jobs I did, especially in the small business and commercial field, tied in, again, very similar. Like more so when I was in small business, I was almost like my own boss. I mean, I definitely had a manager and people above me, but I've always treated it like it's my own business, right? Even though I was on salary and whatnot, and I was, I was employed by somebody, but I always treated it like my own business. So that definitely lent itself very nicely to when I got into real estate. And yeah, I mean, people, especially when you go to a listing appointment, they don't care if you have a university degree or a college degree. Basically, they want to know about you as a person and build that relationship, but also, how many listings have you done, right? What's your experience in the business? But I always caution people too, like, I don't think it's so much on number of years in the business. I mean, if you've been in the business for 30 years and you've had the exact same year for 30 years, have you really grown? Like, have you really gotten better every year?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's always about like number of years of experience, but again, that's something that many people will ask in an appointment, right? What have you done, basically? Or like everybody wants to know, what can you do for me? What's in it for me, right? That's ultimately what everybody's looking for. So when you can provide that value and show the value, I think that goes a long way to building relationships.
And as we kind of close this off, I really do want to bring to light the fact that for me personally, like anybody young listening, I like to speak to the younger audience, is that asking questions is the number one thing you can do in life. Yep. Like it is literally the one thing that you cannot do wrong. You can never ask a wrong question. Right. I mean, unless you're, stupid. I don't know, but in my opinion, I've asked some like really weird questions to some people, but they'll still answer them and I get something out of it. Yeah. So, when you're talking to somebody, and I think you can touch on this too, is finding the light in anytime you're talking to somebody, learning something. Yeah. It might even be, maybe you're judged. It might even be, oh, I learned what not to say because if it bothers me, it would bother somebody else that this person said it to me. Right. Or it might be, oh, this guy talks a lot with his hands. Maybe I want to start doing that because it makes me feel more embraced. It makes me gravitate more towards this person. Right. Even the smallest little things, whether it's asking a question, whether it's analyzing their body language, whether it's analyzing their pitch, their tone, all of these things affect how you treat people and whether people trust you. And, in real estate, in videos, in finance, in car sales, trusting somebody is the utmost respectable personality trait that anybody would do business with.
No, 100%. Yeah, that's totally right. And I mean, I think, and like they always say, I mean, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And
I love that. I love that quote.
And that's it. And I mean, every meeting, whether it's a lunch meeting with a buddy or with a prospect or client, I'm always looking. There's always something that you can learn. Yep. Like you said, I think that's the huge thing with why sometimes Zoom meetings and phone calls aren't the best, because you can't truly get a feel for a person, right? And that's why face-to-face meetings, and you can't automate a relationship. And that's why I think in this business, there will be some automation as things go on. But I think there's something to be said about the face-to-face and that personal connection.
100%.
Even as things evolve, and it's happening in every industry right now. But I think that aspect of the business relationship will always be there.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Matt, we're going to have to close it off for today, brother, but we do appreciate you coming on. And, you are a newer agent, but it seems like you're doing great for yourself. You definitely have, a good head on your shoulders when it comes down to understanding people, respecting people, connecting with people. Yeah. I mean, I love the sports. I love it. Yeah. I love that that's probably your biggest way of, connecting with people and networking. I think it's really cool. And I think it's one of those things that not a lot of people can do, which is cool because you've got your niche, right? Hey, want to go play golf? Yeah, sure. No problem. I love it, man. So thank you so much for joining us. To anybody listening, I hope you got something out of this talk, whether it was good, bad, or nothing in between. It doesn't matter. Try to find something that you can learn from this discussion. If I talk too much, great. Next time you interview somebody, don't talk so much,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So anyways, Matt, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned. We've got some really cool episodes coming up. It's the new year, so it's going to be a good one. 2022 is very exciting for us. Cheers, guys. Thank you for listening to this week's Golden Guest on the Meeting Gold podcast. If you learned something from today's episode, make sure to check out our other content on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, make sure to leave us a follow while you're there. Thanks, and have a golden day.